Yes, national security. Yeah. Okay, let's wait for IT to set it up. Wait for the extra second. 6 p.m. at this time. The meeting is called to order. It's September 3rd, 2021. This is our first budget hearing for the year 2021-2022. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to your council chamber. Madam Clerk.
Councilman Galvin.
Here.
Councilwoman Estime Irvin. Councilwoman Timothy. Mayor Bieneme.
Here.
Councilman Desilme. Mayor, there is no quorum.
Thank you very much. We're gonna do another roll call in about 5 minutes. In the meantime, can we please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by
Mayor, for the record, at 6 o'clock, Councilwoman Timothy is present.
Thank you very much.
Please place your right hand over your heart. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. And now I'm going to ask Rabbi Lane to come forward for the invocation. Good afternoon, sir.
Thank you. Listen, as a Jew, I have no choice. For everybody, Jews and Christians alike, in the Bible, the month of Tishrei, which is next week, is considered the creation of the world. All religions accept that. So for us as Jewish people, it's Rosh Hashanah, the beginning of a new year, where today is the first meeting of the budget. What I hope and pray for everyone is that this is the beginning of only good things for all of us, that this disease is defeated, that people dying throughout the world with all the craziness that's going on in this world, that it comes to an end, that the new year brings everyone peace and tranquility, happiness, and most importantly, that we should support and help each other. And so I will conclude very briefly that everyone should be blessed with only good things. And I want to thank everyone. Be well.
Thank you very much. Please be seated. We are moving to tab A, the first item on the agenda, Madam Clerk.
Tab A, a proposed resolution of the Mayor and City Council of the City of North Miami, Florida, adopting a tentative millage rate of 7.5 mils for fiscal year 2021-2022, providing for an effective date and all other purposes. Tab A.
Thank you very much. The millage this year is set at 7.5. We are going to open it to the public. Public hearing is open on tab A. Public hearing open on tab A. Public hearing is now closed. And now your motion on tab A.
So moved.
Second. Thank you.
I have a motion made by Councilman Galvin to approve the item at tab A. The motion was seconded by Mayor Bieneme. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries with a 3-0.
Tab B.
Tab B, a proposed first reading ordinance of the Mayor and City Council of the City of North Miami, Florida, adopting and approving the budget of the City of North Miami for the fiscal year commencing October 1, 2021, and ending September 30, 2022, authorizing the amount to be raised by taxation for the operation of the city for the 2021-2022 fiscal year, authorizing the expenditure of funds established by the budget, authorizing a return on investment transfer from the Water and Sewer Utility Fund to the General Fund, authorizing the city manager to implement budget amendments, revenue or expenditure, to appropriate or unappropriate funds as required during the fiscal year, and to amend the prior fiscal year budget to facilitate the year-end closing process, providing for repeal, severability, and an effective date. Tab B.
Thank you very much. It's Madam City Manager.
Good afternoon, Honorable Mayor and council members. I am pleased today to present the proposed fiscal year 21-22 budget. I want to say thank you to our budget department and all the departments who participated in the process. Although we continue to feel the economic impacts of the global pandemic, we are beginning to emerge from a number of constraints. Our priority is to maintain a conservative and balanced budget while creating economic stability as we move into our new fiscal year. From public safety to building compliance, we aim to provide the highest quality services, community initiatives, and programs. It's been a little over a year since I came to North Miami at the height of the pandemic and with a general fund deficit balance of approximately $14 million. We were able to finish out the 19-20 fiscal year with a significant reduction in this deficit, but with many challenges ahead, including expenses that have outpaced revenues for the past few years as we continue to keep taxes constant. Last year, we made tough decisions, including position layoffs, furloughs, and cutbacks in libraries, parks, and in many other areas of our departments in the city. While we continue on a conservative path, we would also like to restore our ability to retain employees and provide essential and quality services for our residents. Our previous deficit is not our sole challenge. We are challenged greatly by our declining revenues due to the pandemic that make it difficult to chart a path. In fiscal year 2020, we suffered a loss of $9.6 million in revenues, and we don't have a clear forecast on when or how revenues will rebound in the coming year. And as of today, North Miami is still experiencing a deficit. Our ending fund balance for fiscal year 2020 reflects a deficit of $5,018,744, which is an improvement, but is mainly due to our large one-time revenue for the sale of land and requires that we continue to try to keep a conservative and balanced budget for the next few years to come. In this new budget, there are inevitable increases to the budget, including rising healthcare costs, pension liability, and workers' compensation. The overall fiscal year 21-22 general fund proposed budget is a 3.7% increase from the adopted fiscal year 2021. However, it keeps expenditures levels in line with fiscal year 16-17. In order to maximize the funds that we do have, and to maximize our performance, this year will be different. We are not proposing any additional personnel cuts for the proposed FY22 budget. And the increases in the budget will specifically go to removal of furloughs for non-represented employees, a calculated 1% COLA for all city employees, increased positions in order to increase library hours, open up parks facilities on a phased approach, expand economic development opportunities to look for improved revenues, ensure fiscal stability and increase the city's financial capacity, continue providing services and social services to residents, expanding our permitted services and opening up our city to businesses, and also returning some holiday and community events. This year, we also expect to continue to work through our capital projects, to continue the process of building Cagney Park, continue through the Solomia design, and also with pre-swept tot lot. As you know, earlier this year, we did have additional funding from ARPA. A portion of that funding has been used to cover revenue losses, $5 million towards this year, the 2021 fiscal year that is ending September 30th, and $4.6 million has been budgeted in this upcoming budget for the 21-22 fiscal year. With the additional ARPA funding, we will begin addressing some of the other issues that we have in the city, including flooding through starting mitigation design projects, addressing additional food insecurity in our community, and building up our broadband and Wi-Fi capabilities. In addition, in this budget and going into the fiscal year 21-22, we will be looking at our water rates. We have received our completed water rate study, and it is recommended that we increase the water and sewer rates to meet state requirements and for needed infrastructure. We also anticipate the need to raise permitting and other fees throughout the city in order to sustain our enterprise budget. Finally, the budget before the council today is balanced, assuming that there is a 4/5 vote required to waive the city's $5 million reserve requirement. However, it does include $1 million towards paying down the deficit. I will now turn it over to staff, who will outline our proposed budget, followed by an open discussion between mayor, council, and staff. We will take questions following the presentation.
Thank you very much. And before we move forward, and you are replacing page 10 and page 11 from the proposed budget, from the book, previous book, right?
That's correct.
And
And we provided an updated page that tells you where, if there was any change in page number.
yeah.
Okay.
Now,
So at this
everyone
time, I
has-
would like Roy Brown.
Do we have page 10, 11, the new? Okay. Thank you very much. That's one.
Mayor, for the record, at
Mhm.
6:07, Councilman Desilme is present. At 6:10, Councilwoman Estimate Irvin is present.
Thank you very much.
Good evening, Mayor and Council and residents. Roy Brown, Budget Manager. We'll start off with the next slide, please. First off, welcome to the first budget hearing. Today, we'll go through the citywide proposed budget. We'll talk about the millage rate, and we'll have an Advelerum discussion. Then we'll dive into the general fund proposed budget, which includes the revenues, the expenditures. Talk about the general fund budget assumptions, and then we'll go into the enterprise fund and the building fund. This first slide shows your proposed millage rate. For 2021, the final taxable value that we received is $3.6 billion. For fiscal year 2022, we're proposing a millage rate of 7.5000. This total taxable value will bring in $3.9 billion. I'm sorry, the total assessed value of all the properties are $3.9 billion, and that will bring in $29.8 million in revenue. This is a $7.8 million increase from the prior year. You see here that we have 7.2453 as the rollback millage rate, and by law, we're required to show that. The rollback rate does not include new construction, additions, or improvements. This next slide is the gross taxable value, millage rate, and gross Advelerum taxes over a 5-year period. You see that in fiscal year 2022, the gross taxable value amount is $3.9 billion. The operating millage is the same, 7.5000. It's been the same since 2017. The total gross Advelerum from that millage rate will yield revenues of $29.8 million. Again, that is a 7.8% increase from the prior year. And the total amount that the city will see is $21.9 million, as the CRA will receive $7.9 million. This is a visual representation of the citywide budget. We have a proposed budget of $160 million. The general fund is coming in at 41%, and it represents $66.2 million. Housing funds are coming in at $1.5 million, and that is 1%. The transportation fund, which includes the gas tax and half-cent sales tax, is coming in at 2%, or $4 million. Water and sewer is coming in at $45.2 million. Stormwater is $3.6 million. Water fire flow demand is coming in at $2.7 million. Internal services, which includes the city's risk management and fleet management, is coming in at $9 million. And lastly, building, which is a new special revenue fund, is coming in at $2.9 million. This slide here shows our general fund adopted budget over a 7-year period. You'll notice that fiscal year 2021 is at $63.8 million. And it's important to note that when you compare that 63.8 to this year's 66.2, that number has no merits, it has no COLAs, All employees took a 1 furlough day, which is embedded in those numbers. There were 18 positions cut and 107 part-timers removed from the budget, and there was reductions to park hours last year. So if you look at the number for this year, which is the 66.2 million, we're proposing no furloughs. There is a 1% COLA for all employees. Parks budget has been restored to almost normal service levels, and that is why we're at $66.2 million. Here is a little details into the city's revenue. You see that Advelerum taxes are coming in at 21.7 million. Other taxes are coming in at 9.9 million. Licenses and permits, 942,000, almost $1 million. Intergovernmental revenue, $8.1 million. Charges for services, $5.4 million. Fines and forfeitures are at $442,000. Miscellaneous revenues, $5.4 million. And non-revenues are coming in at $14.1 million for a total of $66.2 million that we're proposing in revenues. This slide is a visual representation of the prior slide. It just shows you the revenues at a glance in a pie. This slide is the general fund expenditure comparison over a 5-year period. You will see that personnel services are at 42 million with a $3.2 million increase. And this is primarily due to the removed furloughs from last year, increased pension costs, increased insurance costs, 1% COLAs across the board. Operating services are at 15.4 million. Internal services are at 3.9 million for a total operating budget of 61.3 million. Capital expenses come in at a little bit over $1 million. Grants and aids are at $1.3 million. Reserves and others are at $2.4 million, and this brings the total expenditure budget to $66.2 million, which is balanced off with the revenues. Here's another visual representation of the general fund budget. Next, we're moving on to the sanitation slide. It's important to note that although you see this slide here, there is no increase proposed for fiscal year 2022. So the rates that you see here was adopted last year and still in effect for fiscal year 2022. The cost per month for sanitation is $32.75. This does include the $5 convenience fee. The cost for the quarter is $98.25. And the cost for the year is $393, which includes the $5 convenience fee.
I just need to add in there that we are expecting some increase in a disposal rate from the county. And if their disposal rates increase after their budgets, then we would have to look at the sanitation increase rates. But we do not have that yet. We're hoping to have that information by the second budget hearing.
So here is a slide talking about the general fund budget assumptions. Again, the millage rate remains at 7.5000. This has remained the same since 2017. The waiver of $5 million in reserves, there was a waiver of $5 million in reserves as required by the ordinance. There is $1 million that remain in the budget. $1 million in reserves dedicated to reducing the deficit. There is a 1% COLA embedded in the budget. There are no furloughs in the budget. $4.6 million of non-recurring revenue included to cover expected lost revenues. $9.4 million are appropriated for programming, housing infrastructure improvements, business grant assistance, infrastructure improvements. Special events have been restored. Brewfest is in the budget. Cultural events are in. Thanksgiving parade is in. Juneteenth, NOMI Fest, the Winter National Parade, and 4th of July celebration is in the budget. Capital projects are included. The heavy hitters are stadium bleachers, re-swept tot lot, Solomia Park, and the City Hall improvements. Also in the budget is our plan to update our ERP. That is the Eden financial system that we use on a daily basis. That is in the budget also. That is the last slide for general fund, and I will now move on to stormwater, or our enterprise fund, starting with stormwater. This is a visual representation of the stormwater budget. Their budget is coming in at $3.6 million. Personnel is at $740,000. Operating expenses are at $1 million, slightly above $1 million. Internal services are at $475,000. Capital outlay is at $500,000, and debt services are at $449,000. Reserves and others are slightly above $400,000. Here's another slide showing the stormwater rates. Again, it's important to note that there is no increase proposed in the fiscal year 2022 budget. There are 35,737 accounts. A new stormwater master plan is in the draft stages, and the city is reviewing it, so that is pending the city's review. The stormwater capital projects will be reprioritized based on the updated master plan, and it will fund critical projects in all council districts. The current stormwater revenues are used to fund operating and maintenance costs, repair of existing systems, building activities, legal support, vehicle maintenance and replacement, contract compliance, and other supportive services. The next slide is the enterprise fund water and sewer slide. Personnel services are coming in at $5.6 million. Operating expenses are at $5.8 million. Internal services are at $22.9 million. Capital expenses are at $1.6 million. And debt services are a little bit over $500,000. Reserves and others are coming in at $8.5 million. Okay, this is the recommended water and sewer rate increase based on a recent rate study that we received. And what this slide tells you is the average residential customer's utility bill will increase by $15.58 if approved, and the percentage increase is calculated at 4.85%. The next slide is a special revenue fund. This is the building. The personnel services are coming in at $1.3 million. Operating expenses are at $891,000. Internal services are slightly above $400,000. Reserves and others are at $285,000. And that concludes the presentation.
Thank you very much. And now we are going to open it to the public first. After we're gonna back down. Public hearing is open on the budget.
William Prevotel, 11950 North Bay Shore Drive. May I remove this just for the talking now? In the past, I've been kind of prescient about predicting some of the things that were on our horizon. You remember back in a couple Marches ago about being alarmed about the COVID situation, because I wasn't tracking it on March 10th. I was tracking it from December of 2020 and knew it was coming. And then 2 days later, we shut down everything. At that same meeting, I believe, I called out that there was an opportunity to buy oil because it was going to plummet. And about a month or two later, oil was at a negative price per barrel, all-time low. Going back to the prior administration with Larry Spring, I had been saying that there would be a recession, a correction in the economy that was ahead of us. And even though most of us didn't notice it, before that March meeting, in February, it was declared that the U.S. went into a national recession. Went on for a month or two. We didn't notice it, because all of a sudden we were addressing the pandemic. And if there wasn't the government aid, the general aid, and an astute administration that understood we have to pump money into this in order to not have it go into a Great Depression, and that's what they did. The reason I give you this information is that I don't have a very good feeling for the economy going forward. We have a number of issues that have been sort of sustained to date through the government support and these other programs. They're being lessened. The evictions can be only perpetuated for so long before people truly are out on the street and evicted. There is a forbearance program on home mortgages that is also going to end very soon, and people are going to go into foreclosure in a big way. So I don't want to lose up more time, but we have some serious things on the horizon. They're going to hit us pretty hard, and we might want to be aware of that and harden ourselves to face those things.
Thank you very much. Public hearing is still open. The budget. Public hearing is now closed and on the dais. And how we're going to do it, I think we have 2 budget hearings. I'll allow us to make the comments and for the budget, and if there's any change, we're going to have to make a motion, a second, and we're going to have a vote on whether to remove or add anything on the budget. That we're going to do. Start with
Mayor,
yes.
may I make a suggestion? If that's the way we're gonna go, if we can go department by department and go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
So I'm going to allow you to speak, and you can go by department and everything you're going to propose, and we're going to vote, and if you have to remove it, we remove it if it doesn't pass.
I guess why I'm requesting it that way, so like, let's say if you're asking for a question in police, and I'm on, if we can start section by section so that we all can do it collectively, so there's not so much back and forth. Because if I'm in mayor council now, I think we should all go through mayor.
Now I'm going to allow you to go over all the departments, and you're going to take all the time you need.
One by one.
You have the book, you can go for an hour, 2 hours, or 3 hours.
Okay.
And any change you want, you're going to have to make a motion. We're going to vote on it. If it passes, it's going to be removed at the next meeting. If it doesn't pass, it stays budget.
Okay.
I'm going to allow you all your time that you need. If we're going to go department by department, we want some people, I may be interested in one department, you may be interested in 5, 6 departments. Better to allow you to do it the way. Let's start by District 1.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to the manager. The ARP funding that we're receiving, is that broken out in the budget? I was trying to sort of find it, but how did you take that money, $9 million, and roll it into this budget?
For the 21-22, it's not, the entire is not rolled into the budget. 4.6 million is added to
How much
this.
has been used to this budget?
4.6 million for the 21-22 budget.
So are you telling me then that the remainder has already been used or will be used?
No, there's 5. So when we submitted, there's about 9.6 that was lost revenues from 2020.
Right.
So 5 million is being allocated in the budget that is ending September 30th, and 4.6 for next year to balance the budget. That would leave the remainder of 9.6 million, except for the allocations that we made. It has not been spent as of today.
Okay, so of the 9 million we received this year, approximately 5 million was already backdated, for lack of a better term maybe, so that we could use it for covering losses in this fiscal year. And then the remaining 4.6 million is being applied to 21-22.
That's correct.
And is that money just sort of rolled in there? I didn't find a specific page that said.
No, it's just put into revenues. So it was just a 4.6 in revenue because it just covers our expected revenue losses.
Thank you. The other question I have is regarding, the Asina parking permit program. that recently reared its head. Do we have monies in here for that program in any way during this fiscal year, or is it just sort of in abeyance until we figure out what we want to do?
We have been working with a group to kind of donate the funds to start that program. To get
Donate?
Yeah, for the parking permits. So we are planning to roll it out in the next year, but it should not have, other than the expense of like the parking permits themselves, it should not add too much of expense to start that out.
I don't want to get into this tonight, but this is going to be a very sensitive issue in District 1, and I want to make sure that we communicate it all along. And if the residents want to lose their minds and we don't do it, then we won't do it. So I would ask that you and I have a meeting soon to discuss how we want to do that. You know what I mean? Like, not just say there's money in there, we're going to roll it out and make people angry. I've already smelled that. They are angry with this program because they don't know what it is. So I think we need to step back and take a look.
Yeah, so we will set up a meeting to discuss that. We did put up the signs based on the ordinances that have been passed, but we've had a discussion about the ones from District 1, and before we move forward, we'll have a discussion.
So are you still planning to take those down temporarily, at least? The ones in District
Yes.
1? Okay. Thank you. And then police in District 1, however you want to phrase it, Solomia. With more residents moving into Solomia, by logic, we should have more police presence to cover those areas. For instance, I know we have zones that sort of go east to west with patrol officers. If the patrol zone for east of the boulevard, I'm just making that up because I don't know if it's east of the boulevard or exactly geographically how it's divided up, but if there's more people moving into Solomia, it makes sense that we need to have more patrol on the street. Does your budget in any way, allow for more police officers' presence, etc.?
It does not, but I would also
More
have
officers
the
or
chief-
more hours prison?
I'm going to allow the police chief to respond to that.
To answer your first question, Larry Juriga, Police Chief. Councilman, to answer your first question, there are not more dollars for more officers. However, we'll allocate the needed officers for those particular areas. We base it on actionable information. There's particular areas that are having more trouble, we'll put more officers there, whether it's through our specialized units or shifting some of our uniform patrol officers.
Thank you, Chief. Through you to the manager, Madam Manager, I'd like to do more than that. I don't want to wait till Solomia becomes a hotbed of crime to put, resources over there. I'd like us to explore ways tonight and going forward to the second hearing about adding new officers and something that's substantive, because it's only fair to the areas. For instance, if we have 2 officers per shift, and currently those 2 officers do District 1, the additional space of Solomia logically says we need to have more officers there. We need to do something more because more people, bigger area, means that normally your officers that you see right now every 90 minutes, you're now only going to see every 120 minutes or something like that. I don't want to see us lessen the amount of protection we provide. Solomia's pumping out the cash. Between this and the CRA budget, I want to look at ways we can increase the officers that are there, one way or the other. Thank you, Chief.
But another thing, Councilman Gavin, and are we talking about officers for the street or for those private entities? Because at the end of the day, they need to take care of their own safety when it comes to the buildings. They need to hire security for the building. I understand we need more officers patrolling the streets, but as far as Costco or the UM building, they need to take care of the safety.
I'm open to the discussion, however we want to break it down. It just totally logically makes sense. If we have 5,000 new residents at Solomia, we can't just leave our police presence out there exactly where it is right now. We can't. Sorry for everybody who's in the private police business, but we can't expect rent-a-cop to do what our police department is sworn to be able to do. So I'm willing to examine coming up with plans, but I feel strongly that there needs to be more of a presence to help cover, the Lamia, because there's more people moving. There's more people moving everywhere in the city. We need more police. So, thank you. That's all I've got.
Thank you very much. Madam City Manager, in your proposed budget, you make changes in page 10 and 11, but the overall amounts stay the same. When do you
There's a scrivener's error that said 2 ACMs, it's just 1, and so the number is the same, it's just where the error was.
okay, it was 10 and now it moved to 90. It was an error by adding 2?
Right, that's correct.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. Thank you very much. And now District 2.
Thank you, Mayor. In this budget, City Manager, how many new positions were in total? Like not previously in any of our?
So it's about, I would say approximately about 10. Keeping in mind some of the new positions were positions that were half funded from last year that are now fully here.
And two.
Can you repeat it again, sir, please?
I said it's approximately 10.
10.
I think it went from 441 to 450, 452, something of that number.
And have we done a detailed analysis of all of our fees in the city to see that if they're aligned with, Miami-Dade County, are we maybe undercharging for printing or even public records requests? Because I submitted one to the city of Miami and they charged me $180. So are we doing a detailed analysis of all of our services for fees so that we know where can we increase revenue in our budget?
Yes, we are. We're undergoing that process now. We're undergoing a process of trying to get additional revenues and fees. As I stated in my opening statement, that is an area where we are looking to see what might be needed as an increased fee.
So in this proposed budget, we don't have any of that?
No, in this proposed budget, we took time to look at actuals and what's been coming in. One of the issues that we've been having is that even though we may have increased fee numbers, we're seeing reduced uses. So what we looked at was what we could expect considering we still have declining revenues even in the areas of charges for services.
Another question of mine, I might need Public Works to this answer if unless you guys can answer it. This question for me: how much do we normally fund for sidewalks collectively? Like, what's the line item for that?
400,000?
400,000
Yes.
For this budget.
in this budget.
Yes.
Sidewalks. What about lighting?
I would ask Public Works to come to the podium on the lighting.
Good evening, Worcester Pierre Lewis, Public Works Director. Through the manager, we have 30,000 funded for this year, but it's not something that we typically are charged. We work with FP&L on a case-by-case basis. Sometimes it's simply installing a light on an existing pole, and there's no charge or fee for that. But sometimes it's more extensive, where they have to do more construction, put up new poles, and then we get a fee or invoice from them, and we proceed with the installation of a light.
So what is the range for that? So like, let's say the minimum, if we're just changing a light bulb, is that like $100? And what's the max? Adding a new pole, is that like 20,000? Just so that.
So most recently, it can be zero, no charge whatsoever. That's typically the fee. But most recently, near the Holy Family area, we installed nearly 10 poles, and that was $16,000.
City Man, well, one of my proposals is that if we can up our lighting budget in the Public Works Department to about at least 50,000 or 100,000, because I know lighting in District 2 is an extreme issue. I'm sure, City Manager, you drove down my block on 129th Street, and it was very, very dark. So I would like to see at least about $100,000 allocated to additional lighting throughout the city. I'm not just saying District 2, but I think that is something that can help us improve public safety to ensure that our streets are lit up, because there's been several burglaries on my block. My sister's car was stolen, and I think having additional lighting can help. So I would like to see that, up by 100. So Mayor, do you want me to move that?
So noted.
Or how do you want?
That's one.
Do you want to move it one by one?
But when it comes to money add to the budget, I think the city manager is going to take notes to see at the next hearing where she's going to take the money, because she have to take the money somewhere. She have to remove something in order.
I have some proposals as well.
That you got to do. You got to do both.
So I was gonna say where I want to ask
take the
her,
money from this side. Yeah, if you do that, yes.
Okay. So, but how do you want us to vote?
No, you can do that.
Okay.
You propose 100,000 from this department, from this line item to this one.
Okay.
That's better.
Okay.
Or
So,
unless the city manager is more comfortable on receive all the needs and address that in the upcoming budget if there is money and that we can play with.
Yeah, I would like to, if you don't mind through the council, if you can give me all your requests in terms of where the additions are, and that way we can bring a full proposal in terms of where to do some of the removals. I have to look at what it's going to do in terms of service levels and where it's going to be and what the effect it has.
Well,
Yeah.
Mr. Mayor,
And in the second budget hearing, if you want to look at that, at least I'll be able to tell you what effect it might have.
well, Mr. Mayor, I actually like the first idea. I believe the first idea kind of makes sense because she gave us, the city manager, gave us her recommendation. And as the policymaker, I mean, she
No, I
made a
understand that,
proposal-
but
yeah.
we need to understand that we're not expert. We can
didn't
say
say
we
we
need
did-
500,000 for lights,
Well-
and at the end of the day,
Well,
it's not
but-
lights that we need. It's
well, she would,
we need to
but
cut the.
if we, I know we're not expert, but if we are the policymaker,
No, I understand.
okay.
It's-
I'm
but I
just
think,
saying.
I
Okay.
think to
I would
Councilman
rather that we propose and the city manager come back at the next hearing, and you tell them this is where you would like to see the.
But I think we may want to give her, we may want to give her consensus amongst the board. So like, let's say we all agree for lighting. We say, hey, all agree for lighting, so the city manager knows.
Exactly, lighting. We have, those are service to the community.
I know.
I think everybody wants lights,
Right.
but we just don't want to attach a number to light.
Okay, so.
Yeah.
Okay.
Wait.
And
Yes.
Madam City Manager, okay, you take notes about the lights. You would like to see more money.
I'm
For
taking notes
lights.
on every
Okay.
request. Yeah.
Can you now? You can where you would like to see.
Well, no, let me finish with
Okay.
my request and then I'll go
Okay,
through mine,
okay.
where we can remove. Also, you can stay up there. What about landscaping? How much do we normally budget for landscaping, or is that part?
For landscaping, we typically have $10,000 budgeted for landscape.
I also, city manager, would like to see landscaping up at least maybe to about 50K. Just overall, they only have 10,000 for the city. Okay. But if you guys want it more, please chime in.
Well, this is the thing, Mr. Mayor, I'm sorry,
When she's
Councilwoman.
done,
No,
that's-
I
Well,
know,
if he's drawn up
it's
the specifics
relating
of the-
to what you're saying.
No, after a proposal, we're gonna have one motion. Yeah.
Oh, we're gonna have one motion.
Uh,
Oh,
But if we're on it, if you wanted to say something,
Yes.
might as well chime in.
About landscaping.
well, yeah, it kind of go into landscaping. If we have 10 position added in, they have to, so if we don't make recommendation, how does that work? So in the second budget, when we come in, it's the last budget hearing. So are we here the whole night again, or if she's not clear on the direction where we want to go?
We got to finish with one by one.
Okay.
let's finish with our proposal, and then we're gonna, go ahead.
Sorry, I'm doing all. I think that's it for me for Public Works. Thank you. Thank you.
That's when you need landscaping and light.
And lighting, I would like to see those two up.
Okay,
If we
Okay.
can, parks.
okay.
My favorite.
Now you're moving to park, right?
I noticed the haunted trails and the spring egg hunt wasn't included in this budget, which is two of my favorites, and I think it's part of the community favorites. It brings out a lot of children. So I do want to see maybe haunted trails added back and spring egg hunt. I think haunted trails is maybe one of those that kind of cancels out. If Mr. Brenton, if you can speak to that, to those two budgets for us, and if you're prepared to bring back haunted trails, because I do know it's next month. But I would like to see some type of Halloween event incorporated, because I think those are our North Miami staples.
So I do have a response on the haunted trails. The haunted trails also requires additional positions in order to do it, because it's a build out that takes more time, so we probably wouldn't have time to do it. Typically we've had, although we get revenue, we do get a loss on that. The spring egg hunt is something that is plausible to bring back, and it also ends up giving us some revenue.
And how much is normally haunted trails?
About 9,000,
And spring
sorry,
egg
about
hunt?
10,000, and we get in 9,000.
And spring egg hunt?
6.
6,000. So maybe if we can't do the haunted trails, I think one year we did like a hay thing through Griffin Parks, and that was like a shorter amount. But if you can look into that and also include those two, because I know what you're saying in regards to haunted trails and not having time and not having staff. But we did do a smaller version at Griffin Park, and it had hay rides, and it was just something nice. Like, Chief, thank you so much. I know you guys been holding it down for us at the police department and doing your version of Halloween. But I also think it's great to bring back some of these staples, because it's what makes North Miami, North Miami. So that's it for me for park. Oh, I noticed that what we had budgeted for the parade and 4th of July, those numbers didn't look correct, especially the parade. I know that number was all the way off, because 4th of July can't be 34,000 and parade only costs 30,000. It's not the same scale. So if we can get those real numbers added into the budget, I think that would be better reflected, so we know what the hard costs are for these events. Or do you have it?
No, we did a analysis of it. There were additional costs that did not need to be part of the parade that took it to about 80-something thousand. We do think we can do a full-out parade for about 60, so that would be an additional 30,000 from what is already continually budgeted currently right now. And then with respect to July 4th, we do have all of the fireworks put in there, and we have it at 34. We'll have to kind of look into whether or not we would add more to it. But it does, the biggest part of the cost was the fireworks, and that is budgeted in there. But that will come back to you in terms of a cost for the July 4th.
For police, Chief, how much is police for the parade? Do we have that number? I know that number part by itself is probably.
For the parade, I have overtime as being 8,563. I would have to ask if that's inclusive of the police.
That sounds close. I don't have the exact number. I can get that for you before the end of the meeting, though.
Okay, thank you, Chief. Library. If we can just, for the library, I would like to know where we were before COVID, where we're at now because of COVID, and where we would be going moving forward. I know library took a significant, reduction of hours, staff was missing, we had to reduce staff. So I would really like to see library 100% fully funded in terms of books, in terms of staff. If we're going to be opening back up on the weekends, can we ensure that, we have adequate staffing levels, because the library is a hub to the community. It is something that everyone, like the library is pretty much everyone's like daycare almost, because that's where the kids go. that's where, you know, they have a lot of foot traffic at the library. So I would really want to ensure that library is fully funded, and that staffing levels are restored, in terms of if we're getting ready to open back up. Because I know the library was something that the library hours were.
So we were at 56 hours prior to COVID, pre-COVID, and we got reduced to under 40 hours. We plan to get to 40 hours for this year. That's what's in the budget currently. Part of using a grant for the Saturday, and in order to do that, we would have a part-time library supervisor on Saturdays, as well as a library aide to do that. In terms of moving it to 56 hours, I don't have a proposal for it right now. I can ask the library director to speak to that if she'd like to, and we can look into that for moving forward in the next budget.
Thank you very much, Councilwoman, Mayor, members of Council. Thank you very much for your interest in the library. As Madam Manager expressed, we are prepared to start our reopening plan with an initial 40 hours, which would be a one shift. 56 hours take 2 shifts to operate the library, a morning and an evening shift and weekend. So that we will look into it as we progress, but our start with 40 hours is already guaranteed, and we can do that with the part-time librarian and additional part-time staff that will cover the Saturdays. And
Do you feel like that's adequate staffing levels, or do you feel like
at 40 hours, at the 40 hours operation, yes. Again, if we consider 56 hours of operation, we would need to regain our original staffing, because then we would need 2 shifts operate. And right, but a one shift, 40 hours, which we would operate opening Saturdays during the busiest time. And this is, you know, we've looked at library usage through the months and through the years, so we can say these are the busiest. And by opening a one shift right now, as we slowly resume our operation, that we can cover.
Thank you, Ms. Gonzalez. I would also like to see the library, maybe if it's a phased approach, but back to the 56 hours with appropriate staffing level. What page is the North Miami Educational Foundation, not the North Miami Adult Education? I saw that amount was reduced from the 25,000 to 5,000. What page is that on? 285.
That was a result of looking at what was spent, and we made some expenditures. We calculated the expenditure there. I believe there was about 10,000 remaining in that budget.
So technically, out of the 25,000, we only spent about 10,000.
Spent about 15, somewhere
To
around
15.
15.
So I just so that if people are going and, you know, we're gonna say, oh, there's no more money, like so normally we spend about $10,000 a month for a North Miami Educational.
Not a month, but in the whole.
For the year.
Yeah, for the year. We can bring it back to exactly what our expenditure is, but we've had leftovers, so we don't spend the entire 25,000, or we haven't spent it in the last 2 years, I believe.
Okay. I would probably at least try to bring it back to the 10,000 if that's what we normally would spend. God forbid someone shows up and, you know, wants the education and we say we don't have any more money. And in housing and social services, I noticed there was like a deduction in 700,000. Was that the funding that CRE took back from housing and social services?
A part of it, about 500,000, is from like the grants. We're not going to have that money again.
Okay.
The other 200,000, I would ask Albert Bazil, if she's in the room, to speak to it. But mainly, it's grants that we won't be getting again. They were one-time grants to social services.
Okay. Okay.
That's fine, thank you.
No.
You want,
Yeah, no, she can speak to it.
oh, okay.
I'm sorry. Basil.
Good evening, Albert Bazil, Housing and Social Services Director, to the manager. I believe she answered it. 500,000, the $250,000 plus was from the CRA from last year. We're about to complete this project. I think they will be completed by June 2022. The 200,000 was set aside for the pantry, but currently we are using the CDBG-CV money for the food distribution. We're not using this funding. So you have this.
And then in areas where I feel like we can cut, Madam Manager and Council, I noticed that there was a CFO position added. I think it's either we do a budget director or a CFO and not both. So that's a new, it sounds great, but maybe we just hire a CFO and that person works with the budget director, but I don't think we need both. The CIB board,
Repeat it again.
the CFO position, because there's a CFO position and there's also a budget director. Technically, they would do the same thing. So, or they could do the same.
And
So-
just to elaborate in your comments.
It's one or the other, I would say.
Just the budget department, for example, you have a budget department, you have a director, now you have an assistant director in the budget, right? And you have a finance,
A chief financial officer.
and you're gonna have a CFO, and you're still gonna have a finance director. I don't think, unless we're gonna keep the budget as an assistant director, I will understand, I will see the need for a CFO. But if we are going to hire a finance, and we have a finance director, and we're gonna have a budget director, I don't see the need for that right now in the budget, especially when we are in the deficit.
So that exists in many other cities, and the reason being is because there needs to be a closer connection between finance and budget, and someone that reports at a higher level to strategically work on our financial capability beyond just the finance of the day-to-day, but in terms of in the future of our financial capacity, our bond capacity, looking at our overall strengths in terms of finances. So in those departments, those two kind of look at what the day-to-day things have to do there. But one of the biggest areas that I found was an issue when I came here is that they were not looked together to say what is going to be our financial future. And that's because there's no one person responsible for both of those aspects that ties them in. When I first got here, if you recall the meeting before I got here, there was an entire presentation on how we would get back from the deficit. But in fact, it did not take into account how we budget and what our expenses are. So it's been two silos and no connection between there. A finance executive, a chief financial officer, will be able to put those together strategically, make sure that we're prepared to get back to the right bond capacity, the right bond rating, would be able to make sure that we'd be looking at a financial outlook for 5 to 10 years so that we're not back into this position. And so the expertise goes beyond just, I have an accountant or a CPA, or I have a budget director that knows how to put a budget. It goes into making sure that we continue to keep the finances. There's other internal and functions that they would also help to do. So for instance, we have purchasing and we have HR. Most jurisdictions use their purchasing functions, their HR functions, their budget functions, and that CFO takes all of them into account together to get a better financial outlook for the city. That is one of the areas that I think was the most important area when I came here. It is a very strenuous task to do, and if you're not a CFO and you're not taking account to both of those, if there's any area that I think that this city needs more than ever is to have a chief financial officer, so that in the future that we can avoid deficits again, that we can look at every aspect of how we run the city on a financial aspect internally in order to make sure that we have a stable financial situation in the future.
I hear you, Madam Manager, and I thank you for that, because I know we had a previous city manager who used to be a CFO, and I know it's something needed. So if you want to remove your budget director and add the CFO there, I think that's where you add it, but I don't think we do both. So that's just my 2 cents. I also feel like the CIB board director, maybe we can use Miami-Dade County and save that funding, because I know we're paying for office space. There's the Citizen Investigative Board. We didn't have one last year. It's COVID right now. Chief, do you feel like there's a huge need right now?
Excuse me, this is not the chief.
Wait.
No, but he is, Mr. Mayor.
No, she's.
No,
but
it's
she's
under
asking the
police.
chief.
Wait.
No.
No, that's a. She
I
has the
understand,
mic.
but she's asking
No,
the chief
that's
for
her term.
a policy.
She can,
No, I know, but
she can
I'm,
decide what she wanna ask question.
but
That's
not regarding that particular, she could
No,
ask the
she can ask
manager.
for anything she wants.
No,
If
I know, but
Councilman.
Can I make a
understand.
comment on the
Yes.
CIB?
Wait, thank
Okay.
you, please. Thank you. You have the mic. She can ask to the manager question to anybody she wants. Yes, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. No, I just feel like right now with COVID, if there's a great need for it, okay, maybe, I don't know if there's an assessment, there was an analysis, but I know this is under police, and I know we're also requesting for more police in District 1 and more, more patrol. We like to say that things are top heavy and we want more soldiers on the ground. So this is the time where, hey, if this is where we can restructure that position or whomever, but to get more officers on the ground, I think that would probably be a better fit for our city. So if Chief can speak to it, if this is something that you feel like we need, hey, by all means, I'll back off. But if this is something that we can utilize Miami-Dade County CIB until we're at a point where we're out of this deficit and then we can fully fund this position, then let's move forward. But I just feel like right now, this is where we have to make the hard decisions in order to get ourselves in a, in a healthy financial future, because right now we're getting ready to add $5 million in a deficit every year to our budget because ARP is not going to be here forever saving us. So we just have to make the grown adult decision. So Chief, if you can speak to that for me, please.
Just before I speak through the chief, I just want to recognize that we are in final stages of a director on that, and we have also moved into having the space for that. While we did place this under the police budget, it is a unit that would be acting independently.
Oh, okay.
Again, Larry Juriga, Police Chief, through the manager. This is really a policy determination. This isn't up for although it falls under our budget, this is something that's a policy and determined by the council and the manager.
And how much of your budget is it taking? Like, what's the dollar amount?
It's just under 300,000.
Talking about for the position or for the.
No, it's actually for the entire thing. What we had expected was to bring on a director. We had new office space for that, and also a part-time position to support in terms of administrative support and investigative support.
How much money is you have in the budget for it? This year budget?
It's just, this year's?
Yeah.
For the 21-22? 307.
307?
Yeah.
How much did you spend last year? The one that's gonna end.
Yeah, this year we did not spend that because we have not had the position come in yet. So we spent just under about 10,000 with the new lease.
Okay.
And
thank you very
yeah.
much. Thank you.
And
Yes,
then,
Councilwoman Timothy.
community planning. Thank you, Chief. Community planning and development. Is the economic development specialist a new position?
That is a new position.
While I know the need for economic development is dire, and we need to increase it, but I think right now, let's continue on with the manager or whomever we already have in that department and wait on the economic development. That's a new position that I feel that maybe we can hold off on from adding.
Yeah. That's when you mentioned
Economic
two
specialist.
positions, the economic specialist and the CFO, right?
Yeah. sanitation, well, in this, that's code and compliance. Go to code. We're adding an assistant code director. Was that always there?
The assistant co-director has always been there. It's not added.
It's just not filled right now, correct?
That's correct.
Maybe freeze that for a little bit.
It is. It is in the budget as frozen
Okay.
for at least 6 months of the year. So some of the positions that you see in the budget,
Sometimes
if they're
we can have
vacant,
zero.
yeah, we've been holding them.
Or, because I know there's some departments, like purchasing doesn't have an assistant purchasing director. I don't know if there's a need for an assistant code compliance director. Maybe we can add more code officers. Is that a place where we can say, hey, maybe not add an assistant code director, but let's hire 2 more code officers?
I had some extensive discussions with our code in terms of being able to have a span of control and dealing with the code officers. I think at this juncture, the need is for someone supervisory. We do have a lead officer there, and we have some code officers, but we did look at that. And we did look at making some reductions, but as you know, even code was reduced under what would normally be there, so that's there. But we're leaving it not funded for 6 months out of the year next year.
Okay. And under
You're talking about
sanitation.
for the assistant director, right? You would like to see that removed completely?
Well, I was going
for
to say
now?
maybe, because I know it's partially funded right now, but I was going to say maybe do code officer and not an assistant. I know that not every department needs an assistant. Some people can, hold it down by themselves. I think our director has been doing a fine job, but I think we may need some additional code officers. We like to talk about top heavy and not bottom heavy. This is one of those areas, like maybe adding a minimum housing officer. I don't think we have one right now in code. And I think, especially with buildings falling and us expecting buildings every day, I think
And I remember a survey here.
I think we're required to have one.
Stated that we need about between 13 and 17 code of. But right now, I think we have about 11 or 12. How many do we have now?
We have about 7, but it goes by the square miles, which was the number that was defined by CP&D's analysis of our square miles based on what's there. I'm
So
not
what's the
familiar
total?
with what you're
Like, how many are we
referencing.
supposed to have?
Can you?
We did an analysis last year. Well, we can talk to CP&D does an analysis, but Crystal, if you want to speak to that.
Good evening, Mayor and Council, through the manager. The comp plan does require 7 at minimum, and we currently have 7, the minimum.
Do you feel like that's enough? Are we still doing weekends?
We do have 1 officer staffed on Saturday. We're not here on Sunday.
Because in our city, most of the works have been done during the weekend, because when they know there's
Like those Airbnb
officers
parties?
around, that's
like,
when they do the roof and those things. We do need it.
and under code is
That's
the
when if I understand your proposal is better to add
code
code
officer.
officers instead of hire a assistant director.
Mayor.
Thank you.
Thank you. Also, is the sanitation coordinator a new position? So we've
No,
always
it's not
had
a new
No,
position.
it's not.
So we've always had a sanitation manager and a coordinator?
Yeah.
Both fully funded?
Well, actually, we had an assistant director of code because there was and that dealt with the sanitation side. We are now we have a sanitation manager now and a sanitation coordinator, but sanitation coordinator has always been in there.
So the manager's new. So the manager's a new position?
Yes.
How much of this does Waste Pro pay?
They would pay the full amount of the sanitation manager.
So Waste Pro is paying the 90. So maybe we don't need a coordinator? So that's another area, because I know in the past.
No, we need a coordinator. That's coordinator. That's the one on the street. That's
okay,
the one on the street. Yeah, we need. As a matter of fact,
Okay.
you put it at 22. I think when all the coordinators are, the pay grade is 26. I think that needs to be addressed.
Oh.
Have one on the pay grade 26 and another one on. Please address that. I think I talked to the assistant this about that. Yes, good.
Okay. Then transportation. Oh, sorry. Just a second. So we have a transportation manager and a transportation specialist. How long has our specialist been here?
Been there for quite some time. It's Marcellus. I'm not mistaken. It been two people, Marcellus and John O'Brien previously. Those
Okay.
are two, and now
Is that who that is? The 24? I think that pay
Yes.
grade needs to change as well. I know, was he being considered for the manager for, at one point, or no? I just think that for that employee to have been there that long, I was kind of shocked to see that was the amount.
Is John still here?
No.
as
Okay, I
a
thought you were
part
referencing
contractor, I think sometime. No,
Oh, is John
he still
still
has a
here?
contractor.
He's not GIS anymore? No? Do we have a GIS? No? God.
Can I suggest that,
So yeah, no, that was it. I'm sorry,
May I-
Rissa, that was it.
I'm sorry, may I suggest that we not discuss names?
Okay,
Or that
okay,
we discuss
okay.
positions, you know?
Oh, yeah,
I
no, no.
mean,
Okay.
No, that's what I
Yeah,
said, the
we need to
transportation
protect
specialist, I'm
ourselves.
sorry. I didn't know who it was.
She's
because
talking
of-
about
Yeah.
the title. Which
Yeah, I didn't know who it
but
was.
a couple of
We had a
names been
manager.
mentioned
Okay,
here.
okay,
Yes,
okay,
yes,
okay.
that's not good.
So yeah, that's news to me. Maybe we need like an employee directory so we can see everyone, because there's been a lot of staff changes even for me. Last but not least, the utilities department finance. So we are proposing an additional increase to our utility, like our water rates. So do we have because I know we increased it, last year by a certain percentage, and now we're increasing it again, correct? So in total, what was both of those percentage increase?
There's a 6% and a 9% increase. That's based on the rate study that came in
From
for Black and Veatch. Yes.
And is that it, or is it still going up? So what is
Well, each year they have a rate. Each year they have some rates that they expect to kind of go up. So for 2022 year, they are saying that water needs to go up 6% and sewer 9%, which is a combined 7.6%. They have indicated revenue increase for 23, 24, 25, and 26. The increases start to decline in terms of the number and the percentage in 2026.
I don't know how we fix this utility billing crisis I feel that we have in our city. I've heard case after case where a resident maybe have gotten a leak in the month of March, and then by June, because we're billing every quarter, that leak has continued on for 3 months, and now that person's bill is $6,000. My neighbor's bill is $8,000 because of leaks that weren't addressed because we're not constantly reading the meter. So for instance, if someone has a leak in March, and because their reader is not read 3 months later, that leak has now been leaking for 3 months. So I don't know how we can address this. I don't know what changes we can make as a governing body. I know I have sat down with the finance director to discuss different options, but the amount of calls, the amount of tears, even my mom cusses me out daily about this utility bill. And I don't know do we redirect the waste pro penalty fees to the emergency assistance fund so that we can, maybe assist people? Do we see what fees we can remove and add it somewhere else? Do we remove sanitation and make that its own bill? Because I know that has also been an issue where, if a house, if someone leaves the house, you can't lien the sanitation bill, which you should be able to, like other cities. You can put a lien on for sanitation for those people who don't pay their sanitation bill. So I would like for us as a governing body to figure out a way so that we can really restructure maybe this utility bill so that people can, one, understand it, that it's not just a water bill, but it's their utility bill that includes, water, sewer, and so forth, but also find ways, because if we are raising rates every year, we are on the verge of losing our loan to rehab our Winston water plant. I think that the state is telling us we need to get our water and sewer and our enterprise funds together. So I am looking to my colleagues on the dais to really think about this long and hard, because I know you guys have been getting the calls longer than me, but I think we really do need to find a way to restructure that bill or come up with some type of creative ways, because it is going to be a complete nuisance to the community if we have to continue raising rates and leaks are happening. It's a nightmare. It's a crisis. So if Miguel has a plan that he would like to present, or maybe he can come back before at the next budget hearing, because I know we talked about it in length, but I would like to see something proposed to the council to really address this water bill crisis that we have, or this utility billing crisis that we have.
But this is after the budget. I don't think that's something that's going to come up during the next budget hearing. We have to address that throughout the year, that situation. Okay?
But no, like I was saying, the waste pro penalty fees can be redirected.
Oh, yeah. Okay, yeah. Are you done?
I'm done. Thank you,
Okay,
Mayor.
and just to recap, yes.
Just a comment on the water, the leakage, just a reminder that if there is a leakage, they can bring in the bill, show the fix of the leak, and those
Get a credit.
fees can get a credit. The other thing is we are looking into a leak detection program, see if we can better and quickly see more of the leaks, and it should help a bit.
Okay, and some of the recommendation I've mentioned, Madam City Manager, and it's $100,000 for the lights, about $50,000 for landscaping, and she proposed that we remove the economic specialist, the CFO, and $15K for the adult education, and the library to be back at 56 hours. Those are the things that I share also. Now let's move it to the quick.
Thank you so much. This is for public works. So it was mentioned that there's $400,000 that's set aside for sidewalk, right?
That's correct.
What was used last, fiscal year? How much was used last fiscal?
Whistler Pierre Lewis again. Good evening, Mayor and Council. Last fiscal year is $200,000 for sidewalk.
Okay, that's adequate for the whole city. I just wanted to make sure of that. Thank you.
And you have to give me some credit for that, because when I
get
came,
no credit, Mr. Mayor.
no, when I came, usually 25,000 for sidewalks, and I changed that.
For lighting, so you say that it has to go through FPL first before there's lighting? So I definitely concur that we definitely need more lighting. We've had several conversations about lighting in some area where we need some light poles, and not just those extra lighting, we like really light poles. So I definitely would like to see an increase also as well for lighting. Flooding. Madam Manager, are we addressing flooding Fifth Avenue, Griffin Boulevard? Are there anything that we're doing to remedy the flooding situations that exist in this?
So in order for flooding, you would have to start with mitigation designs. Through our ARP funds, we've at least identified 4 of our major areas. I believe on 3rd Court and also 5th Avenue. If I'm mistaken, I would ask Whistler to correct. But slowly and surely, we're kind of getting through that phase. So we believe we'll have mitigation designs which allow us to get other monies, and as the beginning part to actually addressing the flooding. So we have that, and we'll be using that aside from AARP funds, ARPA funds.
Also, does this budget also have funding for first-time home buyers?
The funding for the first-time home buyers is in the Housing and Social Services from the CDBG allocation. That allocation has $100,000 in that allocation for that, and the max currently is about $25,000. So currently in this budget, if we're looking at that, we would expect that at least there would be able to be assistance for 4 new first-time home buyers in the city of North Miami.
Is that an increase of from last fiscal year?
I think it's the same from last fiscal year, I believe.
If there could be a slight, that would be great.
So those funds, if we were to increase it, could not come from the CDBG unless we re-advertised and went back out from our CDBG allocation. So are you looking for an additional set of funds to come out to add from general fund?
So what is the process if we needed to re-advertise?
If I can ask Ms. Bazil to come up, but I believe the process that we do is we have to do the public notice where the public gets to weigh in, and then we resubmit a change to it. Keep in mind, whatever fundings we have in there, we get the same amount from CDBG, so we would go in and request that something else be reduced. But that's my understanding, if Ms. Bazil has anything to add.
I would like.
Can we remove this completely or the mask? Yeah, no, yeah.
Good evening, Albert Bazil.
Use the mic.
Housing. It's not working.
Go ahead.
Albert Bazil, Housing and Social Services Director. I concur to what the manager just said. We have funding on the CDBG for 4 first-time new homeowners if they are buying into the city of North Miami. We receive toward the end of the budget process some allocation from the state under the SHIP program. So we set aside an additional $50,000 that will bring it to 6 people that we can assist for the year. Now, in terms of if we want to increase the amount for the first-time home buyer, it's another conversation because we already submitted our action plan to HUD. It's still in reviewing in HUD. They haven't approved it yet. So we will have to wait for them to approve it, go back and make an amendment to this act annual. And it's an entire process.
Councilwoman, can I ask a question about that too? For the first-time home buyer, so it's 25,000?
25,000. We have 100,000 set aside on the CDBG and 50,000 on the SHIP.
So, because I remember in the past that program would have, you guys would have issues advertising it, like people weren't utilizing the funding. So when's
They do. It's just like they cannot meet the requirements.
they can't meet the requirements. So when's the last time you guys distributed funding for first-time home buyer?
The last first-time home buyer came back in 1819.
1819, and how many was that? Do
We
you know?
did 4 at that.
4, so that means money from 1920, 2021 is still sitting there for a first-time home buyer?
We have 50,000 only because sometimes based on our consolidated plan, we allocate where we have the most
Where the
needs.
need.
Yeah. So we got 50,000.
Because that was something that I've heard too, but it's hard to get that funding for people to qualify for it.
Also for the pedestrian bridge. So thank you.
So the pedestrian bridge, it isn't designed currently because we had funded it for this year in terms of design. We currently don't have it funded in terms of construction. We did apply for some grants. We expect a grant, I believe, in 2026. That would be a sure grant. We continue to apply for additional grants to see if we can get additional money for infrastructure. If in fact we do get the infrastructure bill from the federal government, it'll be one of the ones that we apply for, which would be funding that'll probably come a bit sooner. If there's anything to add on that, I would ask Mr. Pierre-Louis to add.
No, I concur with you, Ms. Manager. We secured through the transportation TA grant for 2027, $785,000. And we're continuing to pursue other grants and other opportunities to secure the funds for the construction sooner. We applied for the house grant, and we also applied for another grant with FDOT. And we would get a response if we do secure those grants in 2022. Right now, the project has been 100% designed, is being reviewed by staff, and the permits are to be secured before the end of the year.
So you're saying the grant, the earliest we can get the grant is in 2022? Is that what I heard you saying?
We recently submitted for funds, yes, and we would know if we win the grant for the coming fiscal year, yes.
Okay, so I heard 2027, that's not right.
We have one that's secured for 2027 already, but we're pursuing other grants to construct the project sooner, before 2027.
Hope we don't have to wait till then, because, you know, what that bridge to my attention, you know, it's not ADA compliant, it's small, and so, you know, whatever we can do, I guess this year, by next year, I definitely would like to see something under budget for that. You know,
Yes,
I know that we're at the design phase now,
Yes.
so, you know, I'll stay at peace for a minute, but that's really important. There are a lot of people like fishing there, you know, and you know, the whole route. So, okay with you, Whistler, thank you. I kind of differ from one of my colleagues, Timothy, on the economic specialist position. I find it to be vital. Actually, both of the position that she's proposing, I find it to be vital because if there's something that we need, it's economic development, like I mentioned. And so I really think our effort, I know that the manager has obvious numbers that we're okay now, or we're getting there, but we have to do something with our revenues. Because of the pandemic and because of what we know we're going through, we did not raise. So then we need to find other means and to stimulate, you know, find other means to really get that going, so that we don't have to, you know, well, so we need to do what we need to do to bring in dollars to our city. So maybe, you know, so the economic specialist position I find to be very important. The CFO position I equally find important. Now maybe there could be a compromise where we can, you know, we cannot staff one of the position, whatever can work. But again, you know, so we can have a holistic, all of the elements or all of these positions helping us to look beyond next fiscal year, to look in the next 5 years, so that we'd never have to be in this position. And you know, we can't predict pandemics and what Mother Nature may do to something, but at least we know we've done every effort on our end. So I would ask that my colleagues consider at least. Now there are 10 other positions. I don't really, those 10 other positions I don't know. Maybe we can cut other positions, but those two I would ask that we consider those. Thank you. That's all I have for now.
Thank you very much, Councilwoman Marie-Estimée Irvin. And about the first time on our program, I think one of the area we can, go ahead.
Remembered I wanted to say something. Speeding, oh my God, how could I not say that? Any of my residents watching, if there's another outside of water, flooding, and lighting, speeding. Are there any roundabouts that can be put in our district? Are there any funding for that? Are there any rumble strips, 2nd Avenue? If the residents that are watching that live on 2nd Avenue Northeast, between 135th and 125th, I mean, it's a scary thing for them to back off, so we need some type of calming device. We've asked for it over and over. I've asked countless feasibility studies to find out what we can do, but we need to do something to slow down traffic.
In this fiscal year, it is planned, I believe, to fund 2 traffic circles. One, I believe, in District 4. The other, I would have to ask Whistler to clarify, but it may be in District 3.
Yes, can you clarify?
But we are working on that. As you know, as we get issues with respect to safety, we have submitted several, and you also assisted in terms of getting the county to give us studies back. There are several areas that when we submit the studies, they've said that no, they don't believe that there should be, you know, speed bumps or rumble strips, but we are looking towards rumble strips on a whole. There are some monies, they're not specific to this area other than the 2 traffic circles, but when there's a traffic enhancement, we do put some monies towards that in transportation. But I'll allow Whistler PR Public Works Director to add if he has anything to add.
Sure. We have currently 1 traffic circle funded. in this proposed budget, and it's a circle in District 4. It's not in District 3. However, we are moving forward with the rumble strips that were approved for Northeast 2nd Avenue. We received one quote. We're working to get the rumble strips installed on 127th Northeast 2nd Avenue. And that's in addition to all of the other items that have been proposed by the county or the state on the roads that they own. They've mentioned installing electronic feedback signs, stop signs on the roads that they own and maintain. But to date, those are the only things they have approved and that we are pursuing in District 3.
So there's no approval on Fifth Avenue in my district, on 10th Avenue in my district?
Yeah, 10th Avenue is a county road, and they have proposed or offered recommendations that they're moving forward with. Actually, I followed up with Ms. Burke from the county today to get an update on the progress that they've made on 10th Avenue. But for Fifth Avenue, we do not have a circle in the budget for Fifth Avenue.
But we could, so if there were dollars, we could put a roundabout there, because that's another hot.
There are several locations where traffic circles have been requested. They would all go through the same process, getting approvals from the county, being designed. And yes, the limitation is money. However, with there being so many requests, I imagine we would have to prioritize as well which locations that the circles are installed.
So, Madam Manager, I am requesting that funds are made available for a roundabout. Fifth Avenue is a.
So I just looked on here, and we have it in the capital plan for additional ones, but it was split out between the years because of funding. The traffic circles are at about $280,000 each to add in a traffic circle. There are a few that we would have in our multi-year capital plan for over that. But if we were to look at the traffic circle, that would be 280. We will look and see.
For now, thank you.
Thank you very much. And Councilwoman Estime Irvin, you talked about economic specialists. You know, we have a director now. That's just an additional employee that they were adding. But we still have a director that we just hire, right? We
So that
changed it
position
from a
was,
manager
yeah,
to a director.
that position was reclassed, and the idea between that is that we also have the NOMI Tech initiative that was voted by the council, and as you know, we have tried over the last years. Taxes have remained constant. The director is one that goes out and creates what you need from a high level to bring over the economic development. In terms of having a specialist, there's a lot of research that goes into making decisions about how we go forward with economic development. This specialist would be able to tell us about the how much our real estate is, what we can design for our taxes, those type of things, whereas our director can go out, create the plan, and have someone that assisted doing the plan. Earlier this year, I had conversations with the Beacon Council to make sure that North Miami can be at the forefront when it comes to pushing out our city in other ways and bringing businesses here. One of the takeaways from that was that we've got to invest in our economic development initiatives, and it has to be more viable. Over the past years, we've had one position. A lot of it is spent, the time is spent on approving small business grants, and the idea has been to help business here rather than create more business, and that's the reason for the expansion. We need to create more businesses, and we also need to work on the additional development. We need, as I discussed in my opening statement, we are outpacing our revenues. We have a lot of developments online that are coming online, but we're talking about places where that's going to be in 23, 24, and 24, 25 if they come online on time and they're completed on time. In the meantime, you're talking 2 or 3 years where we continue to outpace. And as Councilwoman Timothy pointed out, this year we're using a non-recurring revenue of the ARPA of 4.6 million to fill that in. That won't be available if we're going to provide all of the opportunities that we wanted to provide with our ARP funds. And so if this area is not recharged immediately in this year for 22, 23, 23, and 24, we have to find ways to bring people in the short, immediate time.
Thank you very much. You done? Fine?
Yeah.
Okay. Fiscal.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Madam Manager, with your proposed budget by your administration, to begin, I do have a couple of comments, but can you please let me know what in this particular budget that specific for District 4?
That's the whole
No.
budget.
I know, that's what I want to know. I want to know.
Let's if
And
you
then,
go,
yeah.
what do you mean
Traffic
District 4?
circles,
Yes, I do.
You have the CBOs.
Oh, no, wait,
You have
Mr. Mayor.
300,000 for
No.
the CBOs.
What's CBOs?
The investigation board.
That's District 4?
That's
Your
you.
food
That's
pantry.
your
That's for,
budget.
wait a minute. Wait.
That's your
Stop.
project.
All right, no, stop. No, seriously, no, let's be serious. Well, since you have a lot of defender, but let me just go into defending the public, the residents. I asked that question, Mr. Mayor, and the others, because I have never, I don't think, privately, when we do have our briefing, I could talk about different items, but when I do talk about creating programs or different initiatives, I don't think I talk about anything specific for District 4. And that's why I asked the question that I asked.
Okay.
And you guys, I've been here for a while doing this. So the traffic circle that was mentioned, I just wanted to clarify it, is one of my residents. This was 15 years ago that it was due prior to me being in office, that I did think the city manager that it's being fulfilled after 15 years. There's not much in terms of the, I don't go and do the specific, in that, but we have to do that for our districts and our constituents. I do understand that, but at the same time, I do not worry or talk about what other commissioner or the mayor, what they do. I go in there, I advocate for me because I respect everybody's district. So that was one of the reasons, and Mr. Mayor, the CRB is not my district for. But I'm not thrilled going with the budget. I think that was kind of expected. There's a lot here. It seems to me if we are in a deficit, so we say, but yet, and I don't think it's 10 position only that is being added, but it may be around that number. And I'm not counting the part-times, but there's a lot of items here, and I gave a lot of leeway. I did not meet with, with the manager in terms of with the staff, and I said, I know it's a hard year, it's a difficult year, and I'm saying what I did. I said, please do the best that you can. I have requests just like everybody else. However, I understand that we are in a difficult situation, so do what you do, and then let's see where we compromise, and before the budget, we will review it. And one thing I don't do, and I'm kind of glad you mentioned that, Councilwoman, I do not mention people's name because I don't know half of the people who works here. So when I look at it, I mean, I know the few, the directors and all that. When I look at the budget, I'm strictly looking at making a decision based on what's best for the entire city. Because although I have the biggest district, that does not mean that it's one district. It's all of us. We have Solomia that's giving 900 and something thousand, which should have been over $2 million, and you opposed to the west of the city that's giving $7 million. But that's something that's a policy that the county and the mayor didn't do. And my colleague Scott, we should have fight when the mayor, the former mayor, when they were bullying us, doing all that they can so that, you know, they would get a good deal. So we're in a position now where we're not getting as much as we should from Solomia. And that's prior to you. But I say all this to say, I do think that I was hoping that we would use this opportunity to look carefully and make the assessment. I think my colleague, Councilwoman Timothy, mentioned that, and kind of see where we are, what's needed. We went into COVID. We asked a lot of these employees to give up the one day, and now it's such a mess. You don't know who's working when, who's in Gober, and you can't get one by, you know, so, and it really didn't mean nothing because we still getting the same thing. So we are in an era of COVID. So unless we change the way we operate, this thing that's called COVID is really leading us. So we don't know what's going to happen next year. So it's good we have a budget, but that's what's leading us. And I don't see where is the emphasis on technology, these people having a computer if they can't come to work, if things are shutting down, and yet I see we are adding. So with that being said, let's go one by one. I do not like the fact that even our office, and I'm not talking about anyone, because I don't go in, I'll do it privately, but I would not do that publicly, because I do respect all of my colleagues, and especially the ones that, appear with me. But I don't like it. We're getting a little increase. And that's not good, because a lot of these items are things that we could do, especially if we are in a deficit. So before we could sit here and talk about different programs, we got to look at our office. So I'm not going to go into it, but I think everybody could see, and I'm glad that it's, the public could see it. So looking at, it is what it is, but it's not good. Looking at your office, I'm in city manager. I'm glad that it's a decrease from last year, but I guess your operating expense is a little bit up from last year. So did you shift one of the position?
You mean for operating expenses? It's cost.
No, the personnel services is down, and then the operating is up.
Yeah, that's not a switch over to it, because the way that it's calculated is based on having people. It's just that our expenses go up, and a lot of times the city manager's office will take on expenses that are additional and not expected.
Okay. And when I get the budget, and I want to thank Ms. Daniel, who didn't have to, but we spent a couple hours just going pay almost department by department. My first impression is looking at the changes in percentage and the difference between the prior year, and then I'll go into the detail, and then I look at the changes in the FTE in terms of the full-time equivalent personnel. So with your office, I'm all right again, because it's -2. And then, but I look at the expense, I'm like, well, the operating expense is a little bit up, so I don't know where is that coming from, but okay, I'm up. No issues there. City clerk. I'm sorry? Mr. Mayor?
I was going to say for the city manager, I don't think as far as personnel, he didn't, we moved positions from the city managers and we added to other departments like purchasing, graphic design, back to those departments.
Oh, okay.
I just mentioned that.
If I can make a correction, the contract specialist did not come from our department. It's going to procurement because it's going to do all of the contracts before it did just the housing ones. But we have a lot of compliance issues across the city, so it's best to be placed in purchasing. That's not from the city manager's office. The other emergency management personnel, those were two were reduced from last year's budget, taken out, not added to any other budget. We did have one police commander that was in our city manager's budget, which rightfully sits in police and is also assisting as we haven't added to police. So this year,
The position was previously under the city manager's budget, and now
that was all done last year. The contract specialist was not under the city manager's budget. It was in housing before because it was for those housing. So in this budget, all the cuts were done in the last budget. In fact, the cut that was done and the one move from our budget to police, we kept the expense on during this past year, so as to not increase or disturb police. But as there'll be some ability to assist in police because we don't have any additions, that was also moved out to police, back to police.
Yes, sir.
Okay. City clerk, there's one position added, the assistant city clerk. So you have a deputy and an assistant? Would that be the clerk?
No,
Yeah, there is a deputy and assistant clerk. So in the budget before last year's budget, there were additions to the city clerk's budget. And last year, the city clerk agreed to hold for the entire year for the savings for last year, specifically also the assistant city clerk.
Okay, but there's also two part-time, so you're either gonna keep the assistant clerk or take out the two part-time, or you keep one, but you can't have three people in this because it's essentially two positions into one. So I think that's a position that we.
But Councilman Desmond and understand that
the
city clerk department is a department not really under the city manager. You know.
No, I know. I'm just. Well, no, I used to be. I know it's not, but she.
No, I'm talking about as far as coding. And that is better. Let's discuss it with the clerk department.
No, it's public. I mean, that's what I'm doing now. Yeah.
I understand, but the city manager cannot just.
No, I was not talking. I was not. I was the madam clerk is here. Yeah, she didn't.
No, I was just explaining how it came from last year.
Before we had an assistant and a deputy.
Yeah, so
I don't have a problem with that. I'm just saying the two position. There's two part-time, so it needs to be either or. Either they gotta keep the.
We had two part-time before.
Mr. Mayor, they have two part-time, and then they have
What I'm trying to say, you cannot sit in here and just decide it for the city clerk department how to operate.
Mr. Mayor, I was the former clerk. I'm not. That's not what I'm doing. I am. First of all, you allow all of them to make their comments, and that's what I'm doing.
It's for the city clerk department.
That's what I'm doing. So do you want me to do it privately or that this is so either I go or you guys
go ahead.
I mean, and the other issue is I see $195 for election. Is that a mistake or are we planning on putting somebody out of office?
Well, I didn't want to tell you.
That's a mistake. That needs to be removed. You add it and it's need to be removed.
So
it's every 2 years that we add money in the budget for election. You have to be remove it. If there will be something, we just vote it and put it. That's got to be removed. We have $195,000 that we can add to District 4 budget.
District 4 don't have nothing. That's what I'm saying. Not yet.
That's a mistake.
At least not yet. Okay.
I would defer to the clerk on what the expectations are for an election.
No, it's election. If there is no election, it's not. It was for election. It's not for the clerk department.
Okay.
It's election. There is no election.
No, go ahead. Anybody could just jump in there, my colleague.
Go ahead. That's
Yes.
you.
No,
But
she wanted to jump
is she
in.
required to
Wait,
have
please
it
a
though?
minute.
Just in case somebody's removed?
Huh?
No, I was gonna say, it's through, well, city clerk can probably answer this. Are we required to have
No,
at
we
least some
don't.
type of money
We
funded?
have budget already before. Every 2 years we put money for election.
But maybe have a contingency just in case somebody's removed from office or dies.
No,
you know,
no,
COVID is
we
not
never
there.
had
I'm just
that.
saying.
We never had that.
I'm just
If there is a need, we will have a council meeting and we have money for contingency in the budget, but not for election.
Where? We don't even.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes, go ahead.
So, Councilman Desmond, if you allow me, I just wanted clarification on this mail renewal notice passport, $12,000. I just wanted clarification on that.
To mail out the passport.
But it says renewal notices. We mail out renewal notices from the clerk's office. Madam Clerk, would you mind answering that?
No, she's, those are
I would-
operation, no.
Okay, so Madam Manager?
Wait a minute. Wait, Mr. Mayor. I was the clerk. You
That's
cannot
not
answer,
right.
or you?
It's not
are
like
you
she
saying-
cannot. We're doing council budget. I don't think.
But that's what
if
you
we're
do,
gonna-
though. If you go into each
That's a
department,
department. Listen,
that's exactly.
the
So
city
each
clerk
director
department
is
an
supposed to do
elected
that.
position. The
Yes.
city clerk proposes the budget,
Yes.
and that's what it is for the department to operate. Those are not new to. If you check, it's always been there. It's not new in the budget. There's nothing new.
Well, let me ask you, since you're the clerk.
Yes,
What-
yes, ask me.
12, is that the renewal, there's a mail renewal notice
Listen,
for
today's Friday,
passports?
$12,000. There's other things in the budget that if we want to cut, it's $12,000 for mailing for notice.
And I just asked for
That's what we are
clarification.
discussing.
Are
We will
passports every 10 years?
Huh? Can we move forward, Councilman and Desume? Go ahead, it's you.
Okay, so. Okay, finance. One more. What's the position there? What is that for?
So, as you know, we've been having the difficulty in certain billing in those areas. Last year, finance did take some of the biggest cuts after looking back at realigning and trying to make sure that we can do our collections. There was an additional position
In which department?
for finance. If Miguel
division,
Augustin wants to speak to, if he wants to speak to that.
I just need to know the division, actually. If it's not administration, I'm okay with. Is it your office, Miguel? Okay, then we good.
No,
You
it's
don't-
not. It's to
We're good,
assist
we're
with,
good.
yeah.
Okay, I thought it was his office, okay. City attorney. Okay, now, we talking about the PFO, whatever they call them and all that. And so now we have an assistant city attorney?
We always
Yeah,
do.
yes.
No,
So
no,
last,
they
so
didn't
last,
have it.
We
No,
always
no.
So-
Guys, I've been.
Yeah.
Madam City Manager, we always have.
Mr. Mayor,
Jennifer was the
I
assistant
understand.
before,
I know.
and you remember
She became
Woland
deputy.
and Galdos was the deputy, and you
Mhm.
always have city
I know,
manager.
and we,
Those
last year,
peoples.
I remember clearly, they did have someone, is it the year before or last? And we talked about it. And with the amount of outside, contractual services, and I know it's hard, poor Jennifer, but you an assistant, this is not here's my point. It's hard for everybody. You got departments who people are working extremely hard, and it's not right. So the idea that folks could, I understand we need folks, but I don't know if this is the time where we pick and choose, what's good, and then we're gonna come here and say, oh, we need money. This is, if we did it last year with no COVID, we don't know what's gonna happen next year. I'm just saying.
I would, if I could respond on the assistant city clerk. Last year, that position.
We're not talking about assistant city clerk. We'll move on.
Oh,
Talking about assistant city
Attorney.
attorney.
sorry,
I'm
I'm so
already a
sorry.
city attorney.
I misspoke. Assistant city attorney. Last year, that position was there, but funded for a portion of the year,
I know.
so that they would be able to advertise, and they did it to hold some cost. I also want to clarify what has been changed in the budget from previous years. So we generally would have another section, a non-departmental, which was litigation cost. There was a section that had outside counsel cost, and normally you would have seen it at 90,000. And there was always an additional contingency cost in the departmental. That contingency cost is no longer there. We looked back at the history of how much we normally spend in those contingency costs, and they're placed into the outside counsel. So that shift into the outside wages, it's after looking over the last few years and saying, what is the reality of the cost? And then additionally, I had meetings with the city attorney, and we looked at what would be additional costs with things that were ramping back up in terms of doing like code hearing and things that needed to be done internal and go every day, and as well as do the agenda. And that was how that came up in the city attorney's office. And if Jen, you want to add anything to that?
Just wanted to add, we've always had a structure of a city attorney, deputy city attorney, and assistant city attorney. And the purpose of the assistant city attorney is really a cost savings. This is our litigation person. This is our person that goes out and attends court hearings while the city attorney and myself tend to the city's business day to day. This person litigates on behalf of the police department, brings in thousands of dollars in forfeiture monies to the police department. This person recovers fines and penalties at code enforcement hearings. So we look at it as a cost savings in that we don't have to hire outside counsel to attend court hearings for our assistant city attorney. That person is someone that can go and do our court hearings, but also brings in money for other departments in the city. Not necessarily, unfortunately, the money doesn't come back into our budget, so you don't see that savings, but other departments can attest that this position does bring in revenue for the city.
Ms. Warren, we need 10 of those positions, and we need 20 in every other department. But are they gonna, so you're saying that the 225,000 for outside counsel, half of that gonna stay with, we're gonna eliminate that if with this position? So you're not getting outside counsel, not all of them?
No, they are getting outside counsel,
okay.
but it would have been a lot higher.
Oh.
So we looked at
So-
what outside, so there is a reduction in outside counsel. In the contingency, we've spent upwards of 200 to even 400,000 in some years. So
Which year was that we spent for outside counsel?
yeah, it always
That-
comes up in, it's come, because it's outside counsel and litigation, right? And so you
Well-
hire outside counsel for litigation. So we pulled out what would be just for like litigation cost and the outside counsel, and we cut it down to go to that because we have that additional position. So what you see is us saying the bare bones, okay, what do we think we're gonna spend with having the additional? But that cost has come up to like 400,000. It's come up pretty high in previous years. So that's where that is. In that area, if this year it goes down additionally, then that would come out. The only reason why it stays in there is because generally we end up spending out a contingency more than we expect. So that's in there so that they're not constantly going into their budget or having to do a budget transfer during the year. We may realize some savings though from those.
Do I go? Or, well, okay. Information technology, I think Ms. Daniel pretty much explained that one to me, and I kind of understand it. The community and planning, well, I think it's been addressed several times up here, and I support some of those, so I don't really think. Public Works. The operating expenses for public work, is it because of the year, or it's like it's going up, down, now it's up, it's like almost $500,000. Or 50,000. Is it 50? Yeah.
So generally for Public Works, operating expenses can also include things that we have to purchase to continue to do it. So if those prices go up or if we have that, I'll allow Whistler Pierre Lewis if he has anything else to add, but generally we use that money to buy even some of our supplies for it. So sometimes those costs can go up generally.
Okay, budget. They have one new position.
Yes, we have a budget analyst. We haven't had those in previous years. One of the things that it's helped to do is to really go back and figure out our multi-year capital plan, make good analysis between all of the different departments in order to do that. And I would say that as almost analogous to how the assistant city attorney's position assists, when you have a budget analyst, you can make better decisions about what you're doing with the budget, what's based on need, and assist to try to match your budget needs to programmatic services.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
No, that's the budget analyst is at a granular level. The CFO is at a larger level. It's at a granular, meaning this is someone who's going to go and analyze our figures on a day-to-day process. And budget is actually very different from the financial capacity and the bonding that requires an expertise in knowing how to structure debt, knowing how to analyze our bond ratings. So those are not the same. In fact, if there was a closer position, the CFO would be mainly most of the work closer to finance, except that it would need to have a close connection to the budget to make sure that all of its financial plans and analysis is working together with the budget.
How many employees do we have at budget right now? Based on the proposed budget, it's going to be how many?
Currently, we have 3.
And you're going to have 4 now?
It would have 4. I'm sorry, currently we have 4.
And you're going to be 5?
It's not 5, it's 4.
But you changed from managers to assistant directors.
Yes.
I remember before.
We had an assistant director.
When I came here, it was 2. It was Dr. Sori and
and Mr. Clark. What's his name? The 2 people. We listen, Madam Manager. This city was running great with 2 people. Mr. What was his name? Mr. Kleiman? No, he's gone. We could mention his name. Kleiman, Scott. You remember his name?
Kevin Kleiman?
Yeah, he was a budget man. It was him, and then Arthur came in, and then that's when there was no issue, But now I know we need all these things because the title sounds good, and I know, but you guys are saying we need money. And these folks, because everybody said, and I love the initiatives Councilwoman Timothy says, because I need those things too. But I was being nice because I thought we needed money. But if we did that, so I need some light too. Because I'm no light and some streets. And we got to do that because that's why I asked Mr. Mayor, because there's nothing in there that could tell you about District 4 except that damn traffic circle. And that's from 15 years ago. And that lady have her email and everything together. She's been emailing Mr. Garvin, everybody else you could think of in the world 14 years ago from this and that. So, it's good, but I'm just trying to say if we are in a budget thing, we need to make sure that we reflect it. If we're not, then we can't be playing around. We need this and that. All right, so Parks and Rec, what's the new position?
That is the special events coordinator that's coming back as the different events have been coming back.
But Park gonna fully operate, right, starting October 1st, right?
It is on a phased approach. It is not gonna fully, we've opened the open fields. Those will be open. We've opened the tot lot.
The social service department, the seniors, we're gonna bring them back. Everything we have to bring them back.
Well, the senior program has not been. So the senior program is fully funded as the same it was been funded. It's a little bit over this year.
If they're fully vaccinated, fully vaccinated. For the seniors, we have to bring them back. Because if we're gonna pass a budget with about $6-7 million increase, and we need to fully open the city. Not phases. We hire more people and then we still close.
So, no, we are going to be doing it a phased approach. We couldn't bring back the entire 100 amount, the 100 part-timers.
Madam Manager, when we get to the senior, we're not doing that, so.
Well, the seniors are not cut. The
Oh,
senior
okay.
program is, in fact,
But we
there's
need
been
to
a,
reopen
there's been
the
5,000
program
added.
twice a week.
Ms. Mayor, I'm gonna get to, yeah, Ms. Dan, you're supposed to give me a sheet that's analyzed, you have it? I wanna see.
There's money in here to allow us to bring the seniors back.
No,
Part of the
she had
question
it,
is how many seniors want to come back with COVID.
Madam Manager, she had, when we met, we had a sheet that she was gonna give me from where we could analyze the previous budget and the other, in this year's budget.
Yeah, last year we spent, in this present
Well,
year.
not yet, last year, we gotta go before, because there was nothing this year. So we gotta go, where was it in 20, because this looked like this is a regular budget, so 2019? 2018, 2019. Yes, that's what I wanna see. So.
Okay,
So that we
we'll
don't
get that
take-
for you.
Yeah, thank you. So Parks has always been a mess, and there's some mess in here too. And I asked them, they got some TCE, whatever that might be. I do not want it over there. They need to give me everything that they have at Griffin. We talked about that, so please, make sure. I don't even know what that is. What is that? So, no, we already had that discussion, so, yeah, I didn't even, that's what that is? I thought that was some,
Gotta open the city.
no, I know, but they have it, yeah.
Every parks, regs,
Yeah, so-
open everything.
And then, so Miss Daniel, I know we talked, so I won't delay, but Parks is the department that where every little thing happened, that where people don't know. You know, and where you've been here a while, so you know. So we know. So I'm not gonna say much about Parks, but we went into it in detail. There's some things, I mean, when you look at the educational aspects of it, they're cutting the Relay for Life. Did we put that back in? $900 they cut for Relay for Life. And then they got like, they want to bring a budget of $900 they cut. So you guys need to put that back in somewhere.
We will look into it. I didn't find it in the previous budget, so
Yeah.
it may have been there. So I'll go back to the levels that were from the budget before.
Yes, Madam Manager, the Chief Financial Officer, it's under non-departmental. So where would that person be? I'm not in supportive of it, but I'm saying where would it be if it was coming?
Well, it would report to the manager, but it's not going to be necessarily in the manager's office, so it'd probably be either in finance or budget, because the position was decided based on what was needed. It hasn't been placed yet into the budget, into a specific department. It's a holistic
How much
position.
is that? That's the 250?
No, it should be,
Yes, 251, no? Yes, 251, no?
About 300,000.
161 in terms of what's been budgeted salary.
But when you add benefits and medical and everything,
So-
it's
Yeah, probably.
On
It's
page,
about-
on page 281, it says I guess the FY 42. And, okay, so the proposed is 251, that's with fringes and everything added?
To include fringes, yes.
Okay. Oh, I see, 161 plus, so the COLA is more than the salary?
That's the 1% COLA
for
for-
everybody.
for the
Oh,
whole city.
Oh, okay. I thought
That's
it was
not,
just-
that's, so it's added in non-departmental,
Oh,
because
okay,
then you'd have
okay,
to go
okay.
back into the entire book and push it
Because,
in line. So, we were in the middle of we're still in negotiations. We still have been making those. So, like we've done in previous years, when there's some set like that you'd have to go back into each line, we've had it in non-departmental. So you have that, you see the entire line of what the entire city of non-departmental would cost for the 1%.
oh, okay. Because the way you see it, it's right underneath it in that account 101.
The spacing is off, so it didn't
Okay.
come out.
We had another thing like that, we thought. Okay. And And then we come up to the civic engagement grants. My concern is the same because I received a call from North Miami Adult, and they were asking for more money. That's $285. The reason that they did not spend as much because they are getting a lot of not necessarily the Creole speaking, but a lot of the Hispanic speaking population are coming in. They did not have in-person classes, but now they do, and they were really, really, they didn't know. So I told them that I didn't know, but I didn't know they would be cutting down, because if we're adding and we're cutting education, from what I see, the kids program, the Relay for Life. So please, I would like to see this be where it was. I'm 25 to 5. Oh, okay. Oh, you guys eliminated? I thought we were not. Are we eliminating? I thought we not. No, that was a mistake. They didn't put that in there. That was.
Yeah, no, it's there.
It was in there?
That just freed up $195,000.
No. Why did they put it in there? Scott, you told them to put it. Okay, the lights. Okay, so you have money. Oh, okay, so that's the 195. Okay. All right. So thank you. Now we got okay. So, Mocha. We okay. Okay. Mocha. Code. We good. And I agree. We need more code, folks. We did say we gotta get more code, right? Because that's what. See, this my thing. Those departments that's out on the street, you really, really need the people there. But special magistrate, the translator. Okay, gotta make sure. Okay, library, we gotta get it back to where it was supposed to be, right? Is my understanding? Okay. Purchasing is one. What are we? Who are we adding?
That's the contract specialist. It was moved from one department to the other for the full.
Okay. And my favorite department, social service, not the housing component. So in 2018-19, for the seniors, where were we?
I would have to get back to you on that.
Roy, no, Roy's here. They got a computer.
That's the department you have more money than ever.
No, that's the housing. They together. So the housing take a lot. So when you break it down, trying to figure out where.
So for the senior program, my understanding is that it was budgeted at $195,000 in 18-19.
Okay, where are we now this year? Right
now you're at $7,500.
Now you know, Mr. Now y'all know y'all should not even put that out to the public like that.
What happened?
Well, we used 10,000, and then we have most of them that are not here yet. And although some seniors may be willing to come back, others are still concerned about COVID.
No. We have 200 seniors in when you talk about active. From my initial before this meeting, I was almost at almost 65, I think, that I already vaccinated. So even though if they don't, see, here's what I'm saying. We don't know what's going to happen, but yet you guys already planned, but you guys are keep leaving out the library, the seniors, the kids, and then you guys are planning regularly, but when it comes to the things that are vital to us, it's like
you hire more people.
Yeah, and then you cut
and less service.
And then you're saying service. So how do you rectify your library, your senior program, your kids program, and then you bring in the CFO, the PFO, the PBO, whatever they are, and then you come to the senior, it's not even half. So it needs to be 195. And that, it's sad. And that is very, very sad. I may not have nothing in here, but we're gonna get that one. The CDBG, I don't get into that. The tax, I don't even know. The water. And then my other big concern is building. I just learned just the other day, we don't have a building official. So that's concerning. So
We do have an interim building official. So we have services that we use, and we're using a building official interim because that's a position that you can't not have, and we are doing an active search. So we just had that today, and we had to get approval from Miami-Dade County. So yesterday was our building official's last day here, and a letter was submitted to Miami-Dade County so that we could have interim services, and the letter was sent back to us today in approving that.
So I know they're in a special fund.
Yes, buildings in a special fund by state law.
Do they pay us?
Yes, they do contribute.
How much do they pay?
It's about a 2%
What is the
across the
2%?
board in terms of administrative services that
How
they
much is that?
contribute to the general fund.
How much is that?
About 540,000.
So that's the admin part. That includes the rent, administration, and other services.
No, that's I'm sorry. I was wondering if you were asking. I thought you were asking its contribution to the general fund, which is
total. Like,
The
yeah. Because they're a special entity. So how much do they give to us? If it's general fund, if it's wherever.
it is 544,759.
Okay, that they give to us in terms of everything, services.
Yes, including that, including information technology, their costs that are allocated towards our attorney costs, utility billing, everything
and the
that.
rent.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
The rent, is that included?
No,
everything?
that's an operating expense. Yeah. If
So
there's
they
a
don't.
rent-
Do they pay rent? No.
No, they're in one of our. They're
Building.
in. Yeah. In our
Okay, so from their money, we only getting. So they kind of like the CRA, but under you, sort of some a special.
Well,
not
there are so.
Enterprise.
Well,
Mhm,
it's a
enterprise fund.
Yeah, it's like an enterprise fund, but it's also a special revenue fund that is regulated by state law. Therefore, there is a restriction on their funds and the expenditure of their funds. So the only calculation that we did is within what is allowable by state for that fund to contribute. Everything else that they have is supposed to go towards additional services in the building area and in development area.
Okay, how much total do they contribute to us?
$544,759.
Okay, that's including everything, nothing else.
Yeah, that's everything that we are calculating that they need to pay that's outside of their own building
Yeah.
expenses, yes.
And then they take care of their own buildings. Okay, and that's in line with other cities.
There's a requirement because you have a limit. Most of the monies that you make there, unless it's being contributed to specific administrative services that you have to be able to show and exhibit and demonstrate, the rest of the funding has to go back into building to focus on development activities.
Okay. Well, to summarize, Mr. Mayor, in the non-departmental it's going back to the non-departmental. I have one question. In the budget, the 188 increase is why in the budget? Is it because of the analysis person? There's a difference from last year, 188,000.
Are you talking for building?
No, no, I think that's budget.
Budget department.
The budget department. From last year and this year, there's a difference increase of 188,196. Is that because of the new person proposed?
No, I mean, that would be partial of it. Give me 1 second. Let me pull it.
just had a thought, y'all. I'm sorry to interrupt,
No, no, go
but
ahead.
maybe we can look for ways a CRA can chip in on some of this stuff.
Ooh.
I don't know. Yeah, I'm just
I'm
throwing that out here because
No,
Too much.
We're gonna
No.
come on the CIA.
yeah. No, I'm just throwing it out as something to keep in
Oh,
mind.
God.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like the first time on by a program, as the CIA.
Okay, so
Yes.
we'll wait as we get those answers for budget, the 188,
That includes changes in positions and the additional position.
No, that's a lot of money. Almost $200,000. That's if it includes the new position and I guess raises and stuff.
Change, yeah, from
Yes.
managers to directors.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. So again, I think we could see that services are being cut and programmed to the residents is not really the message here. And I was hoping that it would be with a budget this big. And then we are asking, which, you know, I've always said that I'm willing to go out and take a, you know, whatever you may classify it as for the public in terms of the water increase we discussed, but not at the backs of the residents when we are adding, you know, into it like this. I mean, some of the positions that, you know, it's justified because some of them were there last year, they were not here last year, you know, but when you look at the other new ones, and then, you know, it's really crazy. And my recommendation, I don't throw out numbers. Like I said, I think we need to be careful because before I came here, I had 3 residents who called me and said that, they are watching too. And I told them that, well, the only thing that I can do is come and advocate and do what I do. Because at the end of the day, folks do what, you know, what's in best interest of you know, them, but certainly this is not something that's in the best interest of the residents. I'm just putting it out there. So again, thank you, Madam Manager, and your administration. Thank you.
And thank you very much, Councilman Desmond. I think the message is kind of clear. That's mean we have to restore all the service, whether it's at Park and Rec, all the activities need to be restored, and social service and everything. And it seems like we want to see more service to the community instead of an additional of 10 positions. I think, I don't know how we're going to do the compromise on positions that need to be freeze. We move from the budget. Are we going to let the city manager make this determination, and at the next hearing we will do it, or should we do it today and just need a compromise to pass the budget? Because if we don't pass it, the budget gonna be, if we don't vote on the budget, we don't pass the budget, that's the budget that's gonna be in effect starting October 1st. That's mean if there's court, there's things that need to be done, we will do it. I think the compromise is to let the city manager make that determination and bring us something at the next hearing. What do you think?
Right.
No, but you already said, no, you said.
No, I know.
I'm pretty
No,
much
I know
sure
what
they
you
already
said, but-
they understand they need all the
Yes,
services need to be restored, and
Well, I don't
and
know
we
what
need to
Galvin
cut
and
on
Timothy, what they
employees on
said.
new positions. Like the CFO, it's like
Yeah,
we all
yeah.
agree we don't need it.
I think, you know,
we
with
need
the
all the
CFO
positions.
Yeah, we
it's just
do,
not
but
the
it's
time
just
for
not
now.
right now. I think
Yeah,
that's what it
yeah,
is.
yeah. We
So-
need
We
everything.
could take a,
So if I may suggest,
Yes.
I think before, I think, like you said, that the manager has heard all of our concerns.
Mhm.
I think we need to give her a chance to see, because we've done this before, and then after that, we impact the very thing that we're talking about is
Yeah.
service.
Yeah.
And we don't want, I'm
for
just
service.
saying,
Mhm.
and then in terms of programming, I think that, yes, we need to have the funding there, but we also need to be mindful that there's the Delta variant. Well, 1 second,
Lisa.
please.
Yeah, but
Please, so
no, you know what I was
I
saying,
think what I hear
Yes.
the city administration say is that we are doing these programs in phases. You
Yeah, but
understand?
we are
that
hiring,
means-
we don't hire by phases,
Exactly.
but, and you wanna do
No,
the
no,
programs
no,
by
one-
phases.
So let me just understand these, and all the 10 positions, the intent of having someone starting October 1st?
Well, no, because some of them, we haven't had those. Some of what you're seeing is some, like, for instance, if someone held a position from last year, the reason why it's in this budget is because it was hired last year because it was going to be halfway through. With the coming online, we're going to be hiring, but we're coming there. But keep in mind, you have to put out, if we agree on some of these positions, I have to go back and advertise them, and even the hiring process takes a few months. So that's where you find savings in the few months process to even hire. And some can take, 3 to 6 months to hire. Some can take.
Let me ask the question another way. How many of those 10 positions that you plan to hire October 1st?
I think some of them are in. So, for instance, the assistant city attorney was already hired because it was a half, because it was halfway year and help.
There's no discussion on that.
Right. So how many do we plan? Probably, I think most of them won't come online until after December.
So anyway, I think you've heard the concern. I'm okay with the reduction of employees. However, I would like to highly consider
It's not
the
reduction of employees,
I mean, not
though.
employees, I'm sorry,
Oh.
the reduction of some of the new positions are a freeze, but, I would like for you guys to consider the CFO and the economic specialist. That's just some of my concern. But just to go back to what I was trying to explain to all of us is, let us,
Okay,
1 second,
And-
may I please? Let us just, they've heard our concerns, they're gonna come back. The second
but here's my thing, Councilwoman.
hearing. No,
let
it
us
is
finish.
obvious that the majority wants some reduction of staff. That's obvious. It's obvious also that the majority wants some restoration of services, more of a max. That's obvious, and I'm saying that the administration has heard that. Let's move forward, and then after that, when we come back, then we will definitely say, no, this is X out if we don't agree. But that's just
If I may, when we come back, that would be the last budget thing. We won't have time.
Yes, we will.
No,
We
no,
have
we
to
won't.
do it until we
Unless,
get it right.
well, this is, and I agree, if Madam Manager wants to take another bite at it, that's fine. But I think we need to give at least some clear direction, because I want a new park, but I can't ask for a new park because I think there's no money. So if I can't ask for a new park, because so I need to be very clear, and my residents need to know what's going on. I cannot go and say, well, let me wait until a couple of weeks, and this is that. I was being very fair. That's what I'm saying.
Let me give you a compromise.
Yes, sir.
We're gonna pass the budget by freezing all those 9 positions for now. Then at the next one, if we have to restore
There's some of them that I think we could
will
go.
be restored.
Well, there's some of them I think we don't have issues with all of them. I mean, I don't think it would be 9 of them, because you said that, what's the one, you got you said which one, I didn't know
The
that.
assistant city,
I didn't
the
know about
assistant
that
city
one.
manager is one of them, Madam City Manager.
What assistant city manager? No, that was a mistake.
Assistant city attorney is not one of those 9
That's what you
positions.
said.
Because it's been there.
She's already there.
She
Yeah,
is?
those
Who?
positions been there.
Oh, that's news to me.
That was hired.
Oh.
Yes.
No, those positions been always
Oh,
been
okay.
there.
You got the same
Just
with the
1
city
year.
clerk. She had, that was there. So you got those 2. Who else that's been there?
You have the budget analyst that's been there. So there's
Wait
several.
a minute.
There's positions that
Hold
are.
on, Madam Manager. So you have those 3. So 3 people been there, right? So is there more?
Among those 9,
Yeah, out of the 10. So there's 3 that's there.
There in HR, there is a part-time position.
No. We ain't talking about no. Folks that's been there, we are discussing, not people part-time going to full-time. We got 3.
Employees that are currently
Yes,
hired
in
right
one time.
now.
So it's 3. So those 7,
are those
let's
3.
freeze those 7.
Yeah, those are those 3.
Okay, so 7 we could freeze.
That's mean we got 7.
So how much money is that, Roy?
We're gonna freeze them until the next budget.
I
After
mean,
that, we will do.
well, if we get, if I get my park, yeah, maybe not. We could do that.
Yeah.
Give the people something.
No, listen. That's why we're gonna figure it out, and so we'll come up with a
Yeah.
solution at the next council.
It may be a whole bunch of
Okay.
money.
And if there is no more question, it's time to go.
Wait,
And-
Mr. Mayor, hold on. I mean, it's almost 9 o'clock. Hold
Don't we
on.
have to move?
We're going. But he's giving us the
Oh, the
7.
number.
Yeah, the 7, so we'll know what she's working with the 7. I mean, we're not saying this is bad. Oh, I almost forgot.
Can I jump in?
Yes.
I'm
Go
sorry.
ahead, go ahead.
Let me
We
correct.
have to be a little
Let me go back
realistic,
on the
though, as a
numbers and get
council.
back to you,
Yes.
because I need to make sure I do the
We,
calculation.
we can't have all of our cake and eat it too. We
Yes,
didn't
that's
raise
true.
taxes. We have a budget situation. We could have some COVID emergencies.
That's what I'm saying.
It sucks
Yep.
right now. I just want the council to be mindful, please, that we might not get everything we want. I might want to have 10 new cops on the street.
Exactly.
I might not get but
Yeah.
one of them, because I just have to be realistic. So, yeah, I
Mhm.
sort of echo what the mayor, I echo what the councilwoman said in that, oh, God, what did you say that was so great? I don't remember. But also what the mayor said, we have to just sort of leave it a little open-ended tonight so that they can come up with some options.
No, we
and
agree
bring
with
it.
that.
Yeah.
They'll do that. I think, Councilman Galvin, we agree with that. I was being very fair. I didn't meet with them. I said, do what needs to be done for the city. So I didn't go in but now if I see there's 7 people, and then I'm letting the folks over there, the park looking bad, I'm like, well, I got to advocate for something.
No, I
now.
think we made it abundantly clear that
Yeah.
especially high-level staff needs to
Yeah.
go
That's what
in
we talking
favor
about.
of services.
The
The
services
people,
and
and I'm
stuff.
pretty much sure when you're gonna reopen those
The seniors.
community
yeah.
centers, those parks, you're gonna need to hire
And
part-time
another,
employees.
and another thing we also have to take into consideration at this time is that after school, like aftercare, like for Parks and Rec, I thought it started. And come to find out, they can't even hire people.
That's what
So
I'm saying.
people are
Nobody
not-
wanna work.
People don't want to work. So we're saying, yes, fund all these
That's
positions.
what I'm saying.
But if Parks can't fund the 40 positions that
And
they
the
need,
people
we may
not
not even
coming.
have a parade in November.
Nope.
So people don't want to work
We're
right
not.
now.
So there's
I
gonna
think
be
that's
money,
another
and that's
thing
the
we have to
point.
consider. So I know we want to, add new playgrounds, and I think we're doing precepts. Is Solomia Park also in this budget?
Yes, Solomia Park
So
Design is
I know
in
we
the
want to improve
budget.
our city, but we just have to kind of do it on a phased approach and ensure that we also have continuity here, because departments that are vital, like public works, like library, we want to make sure that those are adequately funded because they serve our constituency. So I
They
think,
are.
Yeah, so I think maybe
Yes.
if we come to.
No, but those
But,
are
yeah,
not
those are,
affected,
that's what
those
we finding. We're not talking about
Understand park
the CFO
and
yeah.
public works, those are not affected by the cost.
Quick question, and I almost forgot about this because I saw that and I didn't understand it. The former site on 7th Avenue, I saw 300 and something thousand. Yes, I didn't want to say. the
Discussing,
name.
are you
Yeah, I didn't
referring
wanna
to
say the name.
regarding?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, so there was a 13-year contract on that, and there's
Yeah.
an increase every year.
Oh my
The
God.
negotiated amount goes up.
100,000?
Yeah, it's actually it's over 250,000 a year.
Oh, no.
And additionally, there's additional cost because the initial negotiation includes the city paying the property tax and insurance.
So here's a
That
question.
was you?
No, that was.
I was not here. I did not
I
negotiate
thought
it.
that was
I did
you.
not sign on the line.
Right, here's a question.
I've inherited
I'm
it.
not asking for an answer tonight, but here's a question. Because that agreement was signed off on by a manager without a vote by this council, is there maybe some legal step we might want to take to overturn
We asked you
that agreement? I don't expect an answer tonight, but I'm just throwing it out there
I
as something to
did, I asked
consider.
him that.
Because this council,
Never would
no
never
council
vote and approve
voted
that.
on
Nope.
that.
We didn't even know.
That was.
And I
Madam
recognize,
City Manager.
I recognize we give the manager authority to act in our
Yeah.
absence, but I don't think it would necessarily mean do whatever the heck you want to do. you know, so.
I just like to clarify on the record that that was done before I came, so
know.
because the statement was
Which-
said you gave the city manager authority and they take it
Yeah.
over, I want to make sure that that's on the record.
Okay, thank you very much. And now, can I hear a motion to approve the budget and,
With those changes.
With those,
with the,
well, we are approving what's here?
we are approving the budget, and for now, we are raising those six
We need a
positions
vote approval
until-
just to move it to the next budget.
but-
That's what I was gonna say.
Yeah, so that's what this vote would be, to say, okay, and it gets moved to the budget, but obviously, we need to bring back a budget
That's
that
balanced.
brings into what you say, and that's balanced.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Because this is not right now.
No, this is balanced.
No, not with the changes that
No,
we
not
just.
with the
okay.
changes. Yeah, with the
Yeah.
changes, it wouldn't be balanced, and so
Okay.
we need to go back and bring back a balanced budget to the,
To reflect those.
yeah, to reflect the changes.
Thank you very much. Can I have a motion on the item? Councilwoman Timothée, say yes, and second by Councilman
So
Galvin.
move with the, well,
Second.
motion to approve the budget with the items that the council outlined.
And it's been seconded by Councilman Galvin.
Second.
Madam Clerk?
I was just reminded about the waiver. So in order for the budget is to waive
Yeah, I know
the
that with
forfeits to waive.
yeah.
Okay.
As
So we'll
presented.
need that on the
As
final.
presented, it's
Yeah,
gonna,
as
it's gonna be five
presented,
vote. That's mean.
It's gonna be
that's
what?
fine.
I'm sorry?
It's gonna be five. We all five gonna vote.
to waive the
No,
requirement for the
no,
$5
Mr.
million
Mayor.
reserve. If
Okay.
that's not, if we are
Wait,
anticipating, but if we're anticipating it's not going to get the forfeits vote, we would need to know today.
We
Because
know.
I'm
Count me
bringing-
out, count me out. So
Okay.
you got
That's
four
fine.
left.
So if we could take I would then ask to take a vote, because if not, that's an additional
It's as
$5 million.
proposed.
It's proposed.
That's what we said as proposed.
Okay.
Yeah.
As proposed with the waiver, okay.
Yeah. The waiver is, we never touch the waiver.
I have a motion made by Councilwoman Timothy to approve the item at tab B. The motion was seconded by Councilman Galvin. Councilman Galvin, how do you vote?
Yes.
Councilman Desame, how do you vote?
Yes.
Councilwoman Estimate Irvin, how do you vote?
Yes.
Councilwoman Timothy, how do you vote?
Yes.
Mayor Biename, how do you vote?
Yes.
Councilman Desame, your vote?
Say
Yes.
Okay.
Well, yeah,
Just
because
wanted
you
to make
spoke over
sure.
me, Mr.
Yeah.
Mayor.
The motion carries with a 5-0 vote.
Thank you very much.
Mayor,
Yes.
can I take a moment? I know this week, Cecilia lost her husband.
Oh.
And Cecilia is a dear employee of the Housing and Social Services Department, so our hearts,
city.
our prayers are with Cecilia, who lost her husband. And I know tonight there's a benefit concert to benefit Haiti relief, that's also happening so I just wanted to kind of put that out there.
Where?
At the Oasis in Wynwood.
Oh,
Yeah, a benefit concert to benefit Haiti. Cecilia, you're in our hearts and we love you.
Yes, we do. Thank you for.
Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
second.
I have a motion made by Councilman Galvin to adjourn, seconded by Mayor Biename. All in favor?
Hi.
Any opposed? Motion carries with a 5-0 vote. It's 8:37.
Good night, everyone.